Hello, and welcome back to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. For this upload, we will be reading Leviticus chapter 11. And the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that shall ye eat. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the coney, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the hare, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the swine, though he divide the hoof, and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. Of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcass shall ye not touch, they are unclean to you. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters. Whatsoever hath fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers, them shall ye eat. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas, and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. They shall be even an abomination unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, but ye shall have their carcasses in abomination. Whatsoever hath no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you. And these are they which ye shall have in abomination among the fowls. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination: the eagle, and the ossifrage, and the osprey, and the vulture, and the kite after his kind, every raven after his kind, and the owl, and the nighthawk, and the cuckoo, and the hawk after his kind, and the little owl, and the cormorant, and the great owl, and the swan, and the pelican, and the greer eagle, and the stork, and the heron after her kind, and the lapwing, and the bat. All fowls that creep, going upon all four, shall be an abomination unto you. Yet these may ye eat of every flying, creeping thing that goeth upon all four, which have legs above their feet, to leap withal upon the earth. Even these of them ye may eat: the locust after his kind, and the bald locust after his kind, and the beetle after his kind, and the grasshopper after his kind. But all other flying, creeping things which have 4 feet shall be an abomination unto you, and for these ye shall be unclean. Whosoever toucheth the carcass of them shall be unclean until the even. And whosoever beareth aught of the carcass of them shall wash his clothes, and be unclean until the even. The carcasses of every beast which divideth the hoof, and is not cloven-footed, nor cheweth the cud, are unclean unto you. Every one that toucheth them shall be unclean. And whatsoever goeth upon his paws, among all manner of beasts that go on all four, those are unclean unto you. Whoso toucheth their carcass shall be unclean until the even. And he that beareth the carcass of them shall wash his clothes, and be unclean until the even. They are unclean to you. These also shall be unclean unto you among the creeping things that creep upon the earth: the weasel, and the mouse, and the tortoise after his kind, and the ferret, and the chameleon, and the lizard, and the snail, and the mole. These are unclean to you among all that creep. Whosoever doth touch them when they be dead shall be unclean until the even. And upon whatsoever any of them, when they are dead, doth fall, it shall be unclean, whether it be any vessel of wood, or raiment, or skin, or sack, whatsoever vessel it be, wherein any work is done, it must be put into water. It shall be unclean until the even, so it shall be cleansed. And every earthen vessel whereinto any of them falleth, whatsoever is in it shall be unclean, and ye shall break it. Of all meat which may be eaten, that on which such water cometh shall be unclean, and all drink that may be drunk in every such vessel shall be unclean. And everything whereupon any part of their carcass falleth shall be unclean, whether it be oven or ranges for pots, they shall be broken down, for they are unclean, and shall be unclean unto you. Nevertheless, a fountain or a pit wherein there is plenty of water shall be clean, but that which toucheth their carcass shall be unclean. And if any part of their carcass fall upon any sowing seed which is to be sown, it shall be clean. But if any water be put upon the seed, and any part of their carcass fall thereon, it shall be unclean to you. And if any beast, of which ye may eat, die, he that toucheth the carcass thereof shall be unclean until the even. And he that eateth of the carcass of it shall wash his clothes, and be unclean until the even. He also that beareth the carcass of it shall wash his clothes, and be unclean until the even. And every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth shall be an abomination, it shall not be eaten. Whatsoever goeth upon the belly, and whatsoever goeth upon all four, or whatsoever hath more feet among all creeping things that creep upon the earth, them ye shall not eat, for they are an abomination. Ye shall not make yourselves abominable with any creeping thing that creepeth, neither shall ye make yourselves unclean with them, that ye should be defiled thereby. For I am the Lord your God. Ye shall therefore sanctify yourselves, and ye shall be holy, for I am holy. Neither shall ye defile yourselves with any manner of creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. For I am the Lord that bringeth you up out of the land of Egypt, to be your God. Ye shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. This is the law of the beasts, and of the fowl, and of every living creature that moveth in the waters, and of every creature that creepeth upon the earth, to make a difference between the unclean and the clean, and between the beast that may be eaten, and the beast that may not be eaten. Summarizing Leviticus chapter 11, this chapter is dedicated to God specifying which animals are clean for the Israelites to eat. Chapter 10 detailed Aaron is Moses' brother, and he's also the priest of the tabernacle. His sons were also religious officials. They were burning incense in a way that was unauthorized, and fire went out from God and burned them to death. So after that, God specifies in chapter 10, verse 10, that there is an importance and a need to separate what's holy from what's unholy, what's clean from unclean. And in Leviticus 11, verse 46, God tells the Israelites, or tells Moses, that he wants the Israelites to be holy because he's holy, and that there is the need to specify, again, clean from unclean. So God tells Moses that any animal with split hooves that chew cud are good for food. The animals specifically that fall into this category that God does not want the Israelites eating are the camel, the coney. The coney is also what's called the rock badger, the hyrax, the hare, and the swine. And God says don't eat them, and also says don't touch their carcass. They are unclean. Actually, all of these, God is saying not to touch their carcasses. And, you know, he's just making sure that they understand that even though some of these animals are clean or good for food, don't just handle their unclean dead bodies. Verse 9, you can eat water animals that have both fins and scales. Verse 10, if the animal does not have both fins and scales, they shall be an abomination to consume. If the animal does not fulfill both conditions, fins and scales, do not eat it. And that's enough. I mean, that's very simple to follow. If an animal that lives in the water doesn't have fish and scales, don't eat it. Verse 13, God tells Moses the list of unclean birds, and this list includes the vulture, the kite, the raven, the owl, the cuckoo, the hawk, the little owl, the cormorant, the great owl, and verse 20 specifies any fowl or winged creature that creeps on all fours. So, other than maybe a bat, I can't think of any animal that this description would apply to. But even a bat, they fly. Not sure. But you know what? There have been other animals that have gone extinct. The dodo bird is a bird that went extinct in the 1800s. So maybe this was a different animal, or there were a few other species that were there during biblical times. I wouldn't be surprised either, because there are multiple ancient civilizations that depict a human body in an animal head, like in Egypt, but in uh, other societies too. So it wouldn't surprise me if there were other winged creatures. Acceptable insects, or clean insects. I've seen a couple of videos on YouTube on this platform of there's going to be a new agenda to make us eat the bugs. So if we are made to eat the bugs, let's only eat the clean bugs. So the acceptable insect diet: the locust, the bald locust, the beetle, and the grasshopper. Verse 23, all other flying, creeping things shall be an abomination, and you're unclean for the day if you touch their carcass. Verse 26, touching the carcass of an unclean animal makes you unclean. Animals with paws that walk on fours are unclean to eat. And that would be dog, cat, bear, wolf. If they have paws and they walk on fours, you're not to eat them. And touching the carcass makes you unclean until evening, and you need to wash your clothes. Verse 29, the weasel, mouse, tortoise, ferret, chameleon, lizard, snail, mole, you're unclean if you come into contact with their carcass. If these animals, if the carcass of an unclean animal fall into a work vessel, it can be soaked in water to clean. But if the carcass of an unclean animal touches any food or drink, then it should be considered unclean. To be safe, if any dead animal comes into contact with food, it might be the best idea to not consume it, even if it's a clean animal in this list. Verse 36, if a fountain or pit that has flowing water has the carcass of an animal in it, only the water touching the carcass is contaminated. And this is pertaining to an area that is heavily irrigated. So if there's constant water flowing and there's a dead animal in it, the animal and the water surrounding it can be removed and the water will cleanse it. Verse 37, sowing seed that hasn't been planted shall be considered clean if an animal, the carcass of an animal falls on it. But if the seed has been watered and then comes into contact with the carcass, it's now considered unclean. If an animal dies of natural causes, the person that touches or eats it shall be unclean until evening. Verse 41, every creeping thing shall be an abomination to eat. Verse 39, if a clean animal dies of natural causes, the person that touches or eats it shall be unclean until evening. Verse 41, every creeping thing shall be an abomination to eat. Whatever goes on the belly, goes on all four, or has more feet among creeping things, you should not eat. They are an abomination. Verse 43 admonishes the Israelites not to make yourself abominable and unclean with the animals listed. Be holy because God is holy. Verse 46, God reemphasizes that these laws are being put into place to make the distinction between clean and unclean and what may and may not be eaten. That's all I've got for Leviticus 11. Thank you for watching, and the next upload will be Leviticus chapter 12.